The following is a special presentation of the Red Stick Business Report. Watch future episodes on Soul of the South or contact your local cable provider.
Hi, welcome to the Red Stick Business Report. I'm Howard White, your host for this 30-minute show, which will give you an inside look at some of Baton Rouge's leading business leaders and community leaders. The information and questions that we share on this show is not to impress you, but really to impress upon you that you too can make a difference in this community and in this world. So let's go to today's guest, Miss Erica Crenshaw. Erica, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You know, Erica is a mother, wife, business owner, and just an all-around community leader. So Erica, we are excited about having you on today.
Thank you.
You know, Erica, if you would, just give us a little brief overview of your background, how you wound up here in Baton Rouge.
Sure. Well, my husband moved to or accepted an offer with Albemarle Corporation, which is the reason that we moved here from the Northeast. And I will clarify the Northeast by saying the Northeast of the United States. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he said, Northeast Louisiana? And I said, no. So we moved here from New York City, where we lived there for about 8 years, then actually moved to New Jersey, and then Pennsylvania, and now here. So we enjoy being in Baton Rouge. We do.
You know, ironically, you say the Northeast, and when we were scheduling this show last week, you were actually headed to Morehouse Parish.
That's
which,
right.
Which is the Northeast of Louisiana.
Yes,
so you were
right.
headed back home,
Right.
theoretically. But no, let's talk about the Northeast, because you grew up in a town called Cheltenham, Maryland.
That's right.
Which, as many times I've been to D.C., I'd never heard of.
Why? You've never heard of Cheltenham?
Never have.
Wow, yes. Well, I say that jokingly because Cheltenham has one stoplight and one post office, but it is about 15 miles south of the county seat, which is Upper Marlboro, Maryland.
Okay.
And we're closer to the Virginia line, but about 25 minutes from Washington, D.C.
You know, as you think about growing up in a one-stoplight town, talk about some of the values that were instilled in you.
Well, there were a lot of values. One, Cheltenham is located in Prince George's County, Maryland. And for those viewers who don't know, Prince George's County is the largest county of wealthy African Americans. So I grew up in a county where my parents, friends and family were college educated. Many of them went on to grad school and just all around professionals. So it wasn't unusual for us even at that time to have black professionals throughout our lives and to really see blacks in leadership positions. So that was a great part of being in that community. You
know, you dive into that, you mentioned your parents, but who's that one or two other people that really spoke to you and kind of shaped you as a person?
Yeah, well, hands down is my parents and my grandparents, actually.
Okay.
My grandparents are from North Carolina, and even though they lived in the South, both of them went to NYU for grad school. And my father went on to Morehouse College and then to Georgetown Law. So college and being prepared for college was something that was instilled as a value throughout our family, and it really came from the grandparents. And then my grandfather actually went on to get his doctorate. So having that type of success and the importance and value of education was really instilled in my sister and myself. Yeah.
You know, with examples like that, not going to college wasn't even a choice.
Oh, sure. And it's nothing that we ever talked about. The question was always in our household, where do you plan on going to school? It was never a question of not going to school. It was where you plan on going to school and where you plan on going to grad school. You
know, I think it's important that there may be a young person out there today watching this show and saying, hey, I don't have the same upbringings, I don't have the same, wasn't afforded the same opportunities as Miss Erica. If you could pour something into them or explain to them the importance of getting that college education.
Sure, yeah, it's the importance, but also you don't have to come from a certain background to pick up a book and read. I always emphasize to young people, whatever you want to know. Whatever you want to learn about is in a book. Someone has written about it. Your library card is free. Spend some time in the local library, spend time talking to community leaders, but more importantly, read. And then once you have that knowledge and once you understand what the world has to offer for you, then that exposure is generally opened up to you. But I am always, always encouraging to read about whatever your desires and passions are.
You know, that's real exciting. So as you look at it, you said it wasn't about where. You went to college at Florida A&M.
That's right, FAMU. Go Rattlers.
Which is one of Southern University's biggest rivals.
That's right, that's right.
You know, tell us a little bit about that first time stepping on the campus as a college student.
Sure. Well, it was exciting. I had applied to, I think, 13 colleges, and the furthest one was the University of Hawaii. And then my dad said, "Erica, are you kidding me? Like, we would never see you." But I was excited. I always knew that I wanted to go away to school, and leaving my surroundings was really important to me. Had an opportunity to travel overseas when I was younger, so leaving the hometown, if you will, was really important and encouraged. And so I was excited stepping on FAM's campus. I had never been there before. I read an article about FAM in Ebony magazine, and it was just an invaluable experience and one that I will always cherish.
You know, as you talk about that, you said leaving home and the safety. We joked earlier, your husband said, "Don't tell people you're from the D.C. area because you don't know anything about it."
That's right.
You know, that's a real cool part. And actually going to a university sight unseen, you know, that had to be a bold move.
Yes, it was. Well, the good thing was that I had a girlfriend who had family at FAM, and she was one of my best friends, and she and I were roommates. So that helped with that transition.
Okay, great. We're going to talk a little bit more about those FAMU years because I think that's real critical, just as it shaped you. Because some of the things that, when I look at your resume and background, it just bring out excitement to me. Not the FAM part, but your background. That's coming from a Southernite. Hey, well, as we get ready for break, I want to say please stay tuned and come back for the next episode of the Red Stick Business Report. We're going to dive a little bit more into her FAMU years and see what other exciting things Miss Erica has done.
Wonderful.
Hi, welcome back to the Red Stick Business Report Show. I'm sitting here today with Miss Erica Crenshaw. We're having a great time talking about her life and FAMU and some of the exciting things that happen down on the campus in Tallahassee. If you would, just talk about, you know, you went down to FAMU sight unseen. First time you visited the campus was as a student registering. But talk about the importance of how some of the teachers, they nurtured you, took you in, and really taught, you know, care for you as their own child.
Sure. That is one of the valuable experiences that I had at FAM. One of the classes that we had to take was professional development. And I say it was a class, it was something that was ongoing, so we had to take it all 4 years. And a part of that program, we had to interview CEOs that would come and visit the campus, CEOs and senior executives that would visit the campus twice a week. And I had the opportunity of interviewing the NCR CEO, who at that time, his first name was Lars, he's a Swedish guy, I can't remember his last name, but I was on the elevator, headed down to my interview, and at FAM we had to wear suits all the time, so at least 2 or 3 days a week, and the only suit colors that you could wear were black, blue, gray, and brown. So I had on my blue suit, and I just knew I was just ready. And I'm in the elevator with a professor who actually wasn't my professor. I didn't have a relationship with her. And she says, "Your earrings are too big." And so I'm shocked. I'm getting ready to walk into this interview. She said, your earrings are too big for that suit. So sure enough, I took the earrings off and I walked into that interview without any interviews on. But I appreciated her actually making note of that and caring enough to tell me that my earrings were too large for the business suit that I had on. So sure enough, I took those earrings off. But those are kind of experience that makes your college experience even more precious.
You know, when you think about that and you mention that, it just takes me back to my Southern years of things you had to be in the moment and be doing something wrong, and you were ignorant of the fact that
Right.
earrings are too big for a
Right.
certain suit.
Sure.
But someone to take the time to,
That's
so
right.
let me share this information with her.
That's right, exactly. So you're looking at my earrings now. Yes,
Yeah,
I have
I'm
the
looking
small
at it.
earrings. Yes. Yes.
You know, let's talk a little bit about one of the interests that I guess one of the loves you have. We're not talking about your husband. We're talking about the Chinese culture.
Yes. I speak Mandarin, so ni
Okay.
hao. Ni hao
She
ma.
said hello if you did not understand
Yes,
that. I did
wo
not-
hao xie xie ni ne. I just answered as well. But I do speak Mandarin. I love China. I love the food. I love the people. I love the language. I love the culture. Lauren's obviously my husband, and one day we do look to retire in China, probably in Shanghai. But absolutely love everything about it.
You know, talk about that, you know, the importance of traveling abroad and experience different cultures.
It's absolutely critical for our young people to travel abroad. The world is flat, and if we don't compete on a global playing field, then our kids will be left behind. And not just African American kids, but American kids in general. There's a book that I'm reading now called The Smartest Kids of the World, and they talk about children in Poland and in Finland and South Korea. Kids in South Korea go to school for 11 hours a day, and they go to school 2 months longer than American kids. And we wonder why they outpace us in science and in math. So being global, understanding different cultures, understanding how you fit in the world
Right.
is so important for our young children, for our young kids.
Yeah, it's amazing with technology. What used to take weeks to happen, now it happens in a matter of
That's right.
seconds, really.
Right, it's
literally.
instant, absolutely.
Yeah. You know, as you decided to make your transition out of FAMU, talk a little bit about that whole step, you know, because it's obviously you had companies coming after you. How did you make that decision?
Sure. I was in the 5-year MBA program, and because of the experiences that I had at FAM, I actually had offers from JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley. And I wanted to work on the sell side. And the sell side is opposite of the buy side. So the buy side is where you have portfolio managers and where you're actually picking stocks. Sell side, your clients are actually companies. And so I wanted to work on the sales side, talking about stocks and analyzing companies. And I, at the time when I was in grad school or business school, I was working with the Florida State Pension Fund, and I wrote a report on Medtronic and talked about how I really liked Medtronic and why I really thought this was a stock that the portfolio at the time should purchase. And I gave that report to a FAMUan who was at Goldman at the time. And he walked my report up to HR, and I had one interview, and then after that I had 15 more interviews. I had a total of 16 interviews
Wow.
at Goldman. Yes, and they made me an offer. And at the same time I had an offer with the other 2 investment banks, but chose Goldman.
You know, talk about a little bit of your experience, you know, one as a African American and 2 as a woman in a company such as Goldman Sachs.
Sure, it's difficult. It's challenging. One, there aren't many women, and there certainly aren't many African Americans, whether they be black or women or men. And but I was prepared to work in a male-dominant environment because of my experiences. I worked with Citibank. I worked with Deutsche Bank on the trading desk. It was all men, and everyone's an alpha male.
Right.
So you kind of get used to the egos, and you learn learn how to manage those egos, and you also learn how to be effective as a professional, and you learn how to develop mentors as well. And the great thing about Wall Street, there are great mentors out there because they understand the struggle that both women and African Americans have.
Yeah, that is a key thing, I think. No matter what you're doing in life, the power of a mentor.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and that's something I want to dive in a little bit further, because some of your business interests that you've done after you left Wall Street are probably just as exciting or even more dynamic than the Wall Street side of it. So as we get ready to come back for our next segment of the Red Stick Business Report, I want you to stay tuned, because, like I said, we're just going to go further, and we're going to go as far as time will allow us. So stay tuned for the next segment of the Red Stick Business Report. Welcome back to the Red Stick Business Report. I'm your host, Howard White, and I'm sitting here with Erica Crenshaw, and we're having a great time just talking about her life, professional life, and then also back to FAMU years. And as a Southern person, it's hard for me to talk about those FAMU years. Mm-hmm. But let's stick to the professional side. As you kind of left Goldman Sachs, you actually went into business for yourself. Talk about that a little bit.
That's right. So after Goldman, I decided to buy a franchise. So I resigned from Goldman and bought one franchise, which is Amerispec. Mm-hmm. And with Amerispec, we conducted residential, commercial, and environmental inspections. At the time, the parent company was trading on the New York Stock Exchange. So I got an opportunity to research the company and really analyze the corporate side of it. So we bought Brooklyn and then subsequently engineered the acquisition of 4 additional franchises. And so that's how we kind of got started. And we ended up having 0 in revenue during that first day to becoming one of the top producers in about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it didn't hurt that you were in New York City, but it also didn't help either.
Right, New York City is tough. I mean, it really is business-wise. The saying, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, is reigns true in my opinion. It's because it is so tough.
You know, I want to spend a lot of time talking about your current venture, and you kind of started that in New York, but it really came down to Louisiana and it made an impact, and that's Execute Now. And to our guests, Execute Now is not a firing squad, okay? So tell us a little bit about Execute Now.
Sure. I had the idea for Execute Now after we closed on the acquisitions. We actually raised capital in the private equity markets, and I decided that if I could do this for us, we could do this for other companies with up to $10 million in revenue. Mm-hmm. So that was in March of 2007 when I launched Execute Now. And then my timing was perfect because the collapse happened in 2008. So I was able to get 2 companies funded, and then I had 2 in the pipeline, and I knew they weren't going to get funded. We were just simply having conference calls for no reason. And by that time, we'd actually moved down here, closer to that time. So I kind of went through this period of what am I going to do with my life? The market has just collapsed, and I'm in the private equity market. So I actually revamped Execute Now after helping start a charter school in New Orleans. So now we revamped the model to where we provide outsourced finance and accounting to mid-sized nonprofits and school districts.
Go into detail, what does that mean, outsource accounting and finance?
Sure, it's outsourced, it's simple. These companies and organizations pretty much just outsource their finance and accounting departments to us. So we surround them with a CFO, a CPA, a financial analyst, and a third-party CPA, and we manage the organization's finances.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So organizations, what benefit is it to the organization?
Well, one, it streamlines the organization, and it allows the CEOs to really focus on the mission of the organization without having to manage finance and accounting staff. What we've learned through research is that CEOs really don't like having to manage finance and accounting staff, because most of them usually gravitate towards their towards their strengths. And usually finance and accounting is not a strength of theirs. So they would rather review and collaborate with CEOs, but not really manage. So we take that off of their shoulders.
So you mentioned the nonprofit firms, but you also mentioned charter schools.
And school districts, yes.
School districts.
Yes.
You know, what is the key benefit that one of your current clients has received, or what?
Yeah, so one of our case studies is actually with St. Landry Parish School District. The Department of Education contracted us to come in and quote unquote fix the district or really help them. At the time, they were projected to have a $4 million deficit, and we worked with them initially for about 3 months, and they end up ending the year with a surplus.
Right.
And then they extended our engagement to consecutive times, and this year they actually ended the year with about a $7 million surplus. So that was one of one of our major success stories.
So that's technically a $11 million turnaround.
Something like that, based on projections.
Based on
That's
projections.
right, exactly. So it's exciting to work with boards and just with really strong leaders. Yeah.
So if I had to identify your ideal client, the person that you can really help, what range or what type of organization that is? You mentioned several, so.
Yeah, so really mid-sized nonprofits. So the nonprofits that we work with have to have at least $1 million in revenue,
Okay.
and then obviously the school districts as well. And the great thing is that we have a remote accounting model in place. So our furthest client is in Tacoma, Washington. So I mean, obviously we have Baton Rouge clients, but we also have clients in different parts of the country as well.
Right, sounds like you get a chance to see a whole lot during a course of a day from a diversity standpoint.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, a couple things as we get ready to wrap up the show. One of the questions I always ask is, if you had a do-over in your professional life, one of those things that, I won't say you regret it, but one of those missteps.
Mm-hmm.
You know, talk about that. And the reason I ask that question is because people often see our successes and we hide our missteps. I won't call
Sure.
them failure.
Right.
But talk about that and what you learned from it.
Sure. I have had many missteps, but I wouldn't say that I would do them over.
Okay.
I think missteps help you grow as an individual. You really don't succeed until you have failed, in my opinion, and failed is relative, and you fail at different degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just a part of the learning process, and also keeps you humble as well. So failure is necessary, particularly for entrepreneurs. It is an emotional roller coaster, and without the failure, you won't really achieve your ultimate goals.
Yes, Ms. Erica, we want to say thanks again for coming on and being a guest. And just to kind of summarize what she just said, you know, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. So until the next episode of the Red Stick Business Report, I'm Howard White, your host. We'll see you the next time.